All right, everyone, welcome back to Page in America, where we explore the power, profit, and politics shaping American healthcare. I'm your host, Miles Baker, along with Dr. Rob Davidson. Dr. Davidson, you are looking tanned and ready. You are looking sunned. How is it going? Are you still on the other side of the
This
world?
is the year of never-ending summer. Yeah. Coming back to you from
Great.
down under, and it's been lovely. Back up in the North Island of New Zealand. It's just people here are so nice, and it's just yeah. So anyway, yeah, I got a little more sun. I appreciate it. My wife does not, because she's a wise family physician and covers up a little better than I do. But like, you got the doctor training in that, and then I don't know. Guys are just we're not as bright as
we're not as good.
Some of our family counterparts. It's just how it goes.
Sure. I recently went to the skin doctor, and they asked me if I regularly use suntan lotion, and I mumbled. I was like, just some of the time, like.
Yeah. It's like my hygienist asking me, "Do you floss?"
Right.
Yes, I
Yeah.
floss.
Sure. Yeah.
I do floss. I have floss.
Yeah. So we're gonna have.
How's it going in the winter? I hear it's a little warmer back home now.
Yeah, no, it's nice here. We're having a nice time in Chicago. Things are warming up a little bit, and it's always fun to see the green shoots in Chicago because it's always darkest before the dawn. But when the springtime comes in Chicago, it's lovely. So we're almost
not a better
there.
place to be.
Yeah,
for sure.
Not a better place to be in the spring. So, all right. Well, we have a little bit of a different show for everyone today. We're going to cover some of the top headlines at the top of the show. But the back half of the show, we are going to do. We are unfortunately celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Robert Kennedy Jr. being HHS secretary. And so we are going to do the most millennial thing possible and offer you all a top 10 list of his worst hits on the year. We're going to try to have a little bit of fun with it. We're going to do some of the serious stuff. I know so much has happened in healthcare news this year that it's kind of hard to stay on top of it. So we have tried to compile some of the 10 most important or consequential or just downright silly things that have come out of the Kennedy era of HHS. I'm sure we've missed some things. So if you hear it and you're like, I actually have some other things I'd like to talk about, please put them in the comments. We want to hear from you. We'd love your feedback on how we've assembled our list, but this will be our best guess at it. So stick around for the top 10 list for Biohazard Bobby's 1-year anniversary.
I know you. I know you were testing that one out, and it kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah,
that
really
one didn't
does.
seem too forced. Yeah. Okay, I appreciate
really
it.
Does. All right. Well, let's get started. So, before we dig into the wild world of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the pod today, we wanted to highlight a new study that shows, not surprisingly, when pregnant women die at higher rates when states restrict abortion. This is reporting coming from Bloomberg, and so a study out of Columbia University Irving Medical Center found that restrictions have ratcheted up since 2005, when 8 states had at least 5 limitations on things like how and when patients could access the procedure and who could perform it. By 2023, a year after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade's federal protections for abortion, 27 states fell into the most restrictive category. So you saw a sort of dramatic expansion, largely in the South, but also out west. Pregnant women in those states were more likely to die shortly after or during or shortly after childbirth if their access to abortion had been curtailed, said Marie Anderson, a resident physician at Columbia and the lead author of the study. Pregnancy is known to boost health risks, and the U.S. already has the highest maternal mortality rate in the developed world. So, not that we didn't know this, Dr. Davidson, but we have evidence at our disposal to suggest that these restrictions are just bad. They're bad for people's health, and they're bad for morbidity.
Yeah, and just in clinical practice, but then also talking to our OB colleagues, we know it's several reasons why this happens, right? One is that women just aren't able to have control over their bodies. They're forced to go through pregnancy in a lot of cases. Pregnancy's hard. Like, pregnancy is hard. Totally. If I had to be the one to be pregnant and have babies, we would have 1 child. We have 3 children, so it is hard. It's tough. And it's not just like it's hard and it's uncomfortable, but it comes with a lot of real health risks, heart disease, blood clots, any number of things. And so that's one piece. Yeah, I think this is really important because, you know, when it happened, right, in 2022, all we heard from the Republicans was, well, this is just putting it to the states, putting it to the states. The
Right.
problem is with their attacks on mifepristone, which now is almost 2/3 of all abortions in this country are pill abortions, and many through telehealth, you know, the expanded telehealth under Biden during COVID, which Republicans are attacking mifepristone, right? So they're really trying to institute a national abortion ban by making mifepristone unavailable in many ways, right? FDA reviews, Bill Cassidy and Josh Hawley in the Senate really going hard after this with a bunch of made up bullshit, what they call studies, you know, despite the fact that Miffy is extremely safe, highly effective, and again, about 2/3 of all abortions. And so as they move forward in attempting to institute what would really be a national abortion ban, if they could, you know, really restrict and cut back on the ability to use mifepristone, this, yeah, not just 27 states anymore, right? These are outcomes we can expect to see, you know, across the country. So I think it's just as important as ever that we stay on top of this. Us here, advocates in general, you know, stay on top of this. And it's sort of with all the crazy bullshit going on with HHS, RFK, with the ACA, with Medicaid, like in healthcare / politics, that intersection, I feel like abortion, kind of has gotten pushed a little bit to the side, like it seems, right? We don't see as much about it. So yeah, I think it's important we keep talking about this and highlighting it.
Yeah, it's you know, and the reason why it's getting pushed aside is it's such a political loser for them. So they're trying to use things like the FDA review process and the courts instead of do the normal legislation, the work of legislation, because there's such a political penalty for doing the unpopular thing of restricting reproductive rights. And so now they're using more nefarious ways to go about trying to get the restrictions that the extreme religious base is pursuing. So anyway, we'll stay on top of that. That's but that's news out of news reported by Bloomberg with research done out of Columbia University. So RFK last week, I know we're going to get into the top 10 for the year in retrospect, but just this last week, RFK had a weird week, and that's saying something for Robert Kennedy Jr.
To
you know,
say
like, to
he had
say
a weird
Robert
week is
Kennedy
a
had
lot,
a
dude.
weird week is like in comparison to all the other weeks, you know. So this past week, Kennedy appeared on Theo Vaughn's podcast, the podcast called This Past Weekend, and confessed that he used to snort cocaine off toilet seats prior to becoming the nation's top health official. Here's the clip.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. You know, I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats. And I know this disease will kill me. Right. Like if I don't.
In charge of the health department. Okay.
Yeah.
I would just note that, like, it is becoming a rite of passage inside of the Trump coalition to go on Theo Vaughn's podcast and talk about cocaine. It is like, it is almost table stakes for being high up in the MAGA world. But this is, you know, he talks about how heroin use accelerated his ability to learn. Lots of different ways of we've seen pictures of the bag of biologicals and potions that he carries around that of dubious medical value. It underlines just, you know, this guy wasn't. I don't care if you have problems with addiction, and that shouldn't be a penalty on folks. But God, we sure should be able to find someone better to be the head of HHS. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the context of drug addiction and people telling their stories, like, I think that's really important, right? And people even telling their kind of their hit bottom parts of stories, maybe that kind of headed toward a path to recovery, and as I talk to my patients, you know, multiple paths to recovery, right? Most people who are addicted to any substances, it takes multiple times to quit for good. And so, like, we're not here to attack him for having been someone who was addicted to drugs, right? And if he kicked that habit, like great. That is empowering, and we should tell that story. He like celebrates it though. He seems to like revel in the most salacious aspects of his drug use, like just doing a bump, of cocaine just in general. Like that is something he did and presumably no longer does. But having to add in that little layer of did it off a toilet seat and I'm not afraid of germs. Like fuck you. You should be afraid of some germs, right? Like measles. All the people in South Carolina are afraid of measles with the kids dying, right?
Yeah,
like, but so when you go on and you're not afraid of germs, and as proof of that, it's because I used to snort coke off toilet seats. That seems to be like a big fucking problem because his actions as the health secretary,
that's right,
really do suggest he wants none of us to be afraid of germs. Just get them germs and get that herd immunity, and whoever dies in the process, so be it.
Yeah, I'd say it's all part of the sort of the machismo part of being part of Maha or MAGA, that there's like this ultra masculine orientation towards like, danger and being sort of proud of that. And I think so in that same vein.
What is masculine though about kneeling over some porcline and doing a lot of coke?
I don't know.
No, I hear you, but jeez, I'm struggling, man. I'm struggling.
Yeah, totally. So, he in sort of a similar vein of like this orientation towards the extreme or the ultra masculine, is he published an absolutely bizarre 90-second video with Kid Rock called Secretary Kennedy and Kid Rock's Rock Out Workout. In the video, he gets half naked with Kid Rock in a sauna, enters a cold plunge in just his jeans, and jumps into the pool with Kid Rock. Why don't we just actually, instead of me describing it, why don't we just roll the tape?
Oh, milk.
Yeah.
I just noticed the bear. The bear.
The bears, you missed the bear the first time.
That's like a deep cut. Yeah.
I didn't realize that I didn't realize that the hot tub was possibly filled with whole milk. Like it was like the commentary on the internet suggested that maybe it was filled with whole milk. Like I didn't catch that the first time I saw it. Super, like, I mean, absurdistly masculine in its like attempt. I mean, I don't think it maybe in practice. Why is everyone in jeans?
Yeah, in jeans and no shirt. It's so weird. I got to share something here, and I'm not going to divulge anyone's identity because it wasn't told in confidence, but it just doesn't fit right. But I'm friends with someone who lives near where RFK Jr. currently lives. Okay,
yeah,
and around DC. And this individual, very close to this person. And this individual was just walking their dog down the street in front of RFK Jr.'s house. And Cheryl Hines, that's his wife, right? Cheryl Hines, she saw on the porch, because you walk by, his house, you kind of want to look, see what's happening.
Yeah.
And Cheryl Hines is on the porch. And as she's walking by, the door opens and there's RFK Jr. standing without a shirt on, wearing jeans. Literally, like, I swear to God, this is someone I trust. Like, they're not just telling me this to like, hey, look what I know. Like, I just think that's, if he's just not testifying, he's not like having to wear, a suit and a button up. He is in jeans and no shirt, no matter what he does. It's crazy.
I don't have a problem with the naked form, but why do these very old men insist on being like partially naked on tape? What's the goal? I was just showing off your physique. I mean, it's like he's the HHS secretary. He's constantly taking off his shirt. Yeah, guy's in pretty good shape.
He's
buffed.
I mean, I'm not. But
he's like also very old.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's got to do it. I don't understand what he's showed off. It's a strange it's a strange fixation to want to be showing off your body all the time. I think if you're in your 70s, I don't understand why you'd want to do it. I don't get it.
And then just jeans. Like, I'm sorry. I've had to run in jeans before because I was running away from something or running to catch a train. That's good. When I go out for exercise running, it's like you got shorts, you got sweats, you got something other than jeans. I don't know. I mean, maybe Levi's or Lee or someone is going to come after us for denigrating the use of jeans, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird vibe.
I don't know who that video's for is the main thing. Is like, there's not a constituency for that video, I don't think. I mean, the Kid Rock show after the TBUSA show during alternatively to Bad Bunny show was like a total disaster for them. Like, who's that for? You know who, unfortunately, it might be for, Rob? I used to love, I'll cop to this. I used to love Kid Rock's first album. Ba to Ba, when it came out, was very good. And this was before Kid Rock was a racist, at least publicly. This is before he had these weird right-wing politics, when he was just like a new metal rocker in the late 90s, early 2000s. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But but who's that video for now? Nobody.
I don't know who they're trying to get. Like young men. Like I can't imagine too many young men watching that and saying, I want to join up with that crowd. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
just again, weird dude. Weird dude.
Weird dude. It is a weirder than normal week. We're going to get into more of the history of the year later on. So, meanwhile, on a more serious note, the revolving door leadership at HHS continues under Kennedy's watch. The Department of Health and Human Services has been in chaos almost from the start of RFK's time as the administrator. Once he took office, he began slashing staff, and to date, over 17,400 people have been let go across HHS. So, an enormous loss of talent and people from HHS. About half of those are from the FDA and the NIH. FDA, pretty important for food safety. I know that he's pretty fixated on food safety, although it seems like you're not doing a very good job if you're just slashing the FDA with huge cuts. The head of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, Vinay Prasad, was forced out after he was publicly attacked by conservative gadfly Laura Loomer, only to be rehired 2 weeks later. We've talked about Laura Loomer on this podcast. This past week, in what HHS is calling a management team enhancement, Kennedy fired several more people in leadership positions and elevated others. White House Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy are shaking up the health department's leadership team ahead of the midterms, pushing out several deputies while elevating others in hopes of stabilizing an agency rattled by internal fights and controversial messages, according to more than half a dozen people familiar with the matter who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe personal matters. That's reporting from the Washington Post. The White House began considering reorganizing HHS's leadership team last year after a series of high-profile dust-ups, including infighting at the Food and Drug Administration, controversial vaccine decisions, and struggles to stay on message, according to 2 current officials and 1 former official. The nonstop chaos under RFK Jr. has only increased Americans' distrust of the government's health agencies, and with the shakeup, the CDC, once again without a director. However, yesterday, Kennedy announced that NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya will also become acting director of the CDC. That seems like that's like a Marco thing where you become the archivist and the Secretary of State, I think. Amid the chaos, Kennedy's so-called Maha followers have been emboldened and are now targeting states to overturn vaccine mandates for school kids. So it is, from the outside looking in, it does seem like they're continuing to eliminate the specialists and the professionals in a number of these agencies and elevating the propagandists and the people who are in on the political project of coalition management of Maha.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
I mean, so on this show, we interviewed a couple of former CDC officials, Dimitri Daskalakis, Dr. Deb Howry, who left after Susan Manaras was fired, right, as CDC director. Right. And I asked them both, like, why, what made you decide leaving was your recourse and not staying and fighting? And they said, listen, we're being asked and told to do things that we think endanger people's health. Like, we just can't do that, right? It doesn't fit with our oath. And that, and understandable. And I think you have to applaud these people. Some people are still there, right? There are some kind of career folks, but less, fewer and fewer. But I just can't imagine what the scene would be like. Knock on wood, we take back the White House in 2028 to some like more normalcy and start to rebuild some of this health infrastructure. I mean, what's it going to look like when they go in there? I imagine people just sitting in the corner, kind of sucking on a binky on their thumb and like holding their blankie, just waiting for them to come in. I can't imagine what these folks are enduring, and whether leaving or just getting fired. It's a long.
I bet Rob. I think they're probably doing a lot. There's a lot of chaos up at the top, but it's like there's just not like a lot of people inside of FDA, CDC, HHS in general that are going to be like quick converts to the cause of the crazy. And so I suspect there's big pockets of the organization that are operating normally. I mean, we've actually heard that there's like large swaths untouched by the insanity. But then once the insanity eventually comes for everybody, right? Like they sort of train their eyes.
It's like the blob. It creeps under the door, right? And you're kind of sealing off the room. And so my hope is that at least enough people have like sort of good faith on this and who are talented individuals who've committed to public service like this stick around, so that there's something to work from when the rebuilding or building back better begins. All right, well, we're going to transition now to the top 10 list, Rob. We know that before he was selected by Trump to run HHS, there were signs that RFK wasn't going to be a good fit for the job. There was the time he chainsawed the head off a dead whale, bungee cord on a beach in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, bungee corded it to the vehicle's roof and drove her for 5 hours home. There's the time he dumped a dead bear cub. There was the strange stories of him like chopping up like little birds or like rodents to feed little birds. There was the time that he claimed to do heroin, but claimed that heroin made him a better student. List goes on and on and on and on, and sort of the strange behavior. But what we have tried to do is put together a top 10 list of the wild, crazy, and harmful coming out of HHS, coming out of Kennedy's first year at HHS. And have a little discussion about each one. Maybe viewers and listeners, if you have a different order or a different topic that should be on the list, please do share it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. So he's done so many bad things. We could have 100 other items.
We could have 100.
Please comment. Please take us to task. Right? Tell us why something else, because it will not take long to convince me. There are do a top 100 list. We just don't have unlimited bandwidth here.
Let's just start with a weird one. Number 10, so low on the totem pole of harm, but high on the totem pole is strange. He swam in sewage contaminated Washington D.C. Creek with his grandchildren. Via NBC News, in one of the photos from Sunday, Kennedy is seen fully submerged in the water with his grandchildren swimming, in spite of an ongoing National Park Service advisory against coming in contact with the water in Washington D.C. Park due to the high bacteria levels. The same notice as swimming and wading are not permitted due to the health risk. Rob, I used to run in this park. Couldn't catch me dead in that water.
No, you might, right? If you end up in it. Right? Like the weirdest part is he posted it, right? It isn't like he was tiptoeing around and said, "Hey kids, I got this spot, but don't tell anyone." And then some reporter was there with a zoom lens and caught him in the act. He fucking posted it, like proud of the fact. Again, he's not afraid of germs. He's done coke off toilet seats. Not afraid.
Yeah, don't drag your grandkids into it. It's icky. All right, well, let's go. Let's zoom on right to number 9, and it made the list, Rob. It made the list that we put together. Wearing jeans to do absolutely everything. RFK constantly posts videos of himself doing odd exercise-related activities in blue jeans and often wearing no shirt. There's one with Pete Hegseth in the video, The Two Faced Off at the Pete and Bobby Challenge, where they both tried to do 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups in 10 minutes or less. There was another one where he hiked with Dr. Oz and climbed a giant boulder. He said sunlight is medicine. I've heard movement is medicine and could maybe be persuaded of that. I'm not sure I've heard sunlight is medicine. But anyway, and then finally the video we saw earlier today, wearing jeans for everything. I like a good pair of jeans, Rob. I'm not sure you should be wearing them everywhere. It's honestly, it's bad for jeans for Bobby Kennedy to be wearing jeans doing all this stuff. Like, it's like jeans are like a quintessential piece of American apparel. And like, we don't need this guy ruining the reputation of jeans writ large. We don't need that in this country.
So we are pro jeans is what you're saying? Okay.
I'm pro jeans.
Yeah,
I like my jeans.
Yeah, no, it's fine. No, it's good. It's fine. It is. It's just weird. Like no shirt, just jeans, doing things you don't do, and no shirt, just jeans. Like it's just weird. Like, you know.
All right. Well, Bobby Kennedy, stop ruining jeans.
Yeah.
We want jeans to we want jeans to be cool later. Stop making them less cool. All right. Number 8, used artificial intelligence to produce an error-filled children's health report. The Maha report, Make Our Children Healthy Again report, contained erroneous citations and cited non-existent studies. In other words, AI hallucinations. Via the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, the footnotes contain multiple errors. The false citations, including non-existent studies on anxiety in adolescents, the impact of direct-to-consumer advertising on the prescribing of ADHD and antidepressant medication for our children, and overprescribing of oral corticosteroids in children with asthma. Anyway, Rob, is there much different if the AI hallucinates it or if Bobby hallucinates it himself?
Yeah, like which one's more dangerous, right? I mean, this is what all our kids are dealing with in school, having their teachers like, you can't have it write your report because you could have Chad or any of the others write yourself a nice little report.
Right.
But you gotta, I mean, it's just like, hey man, you guys gotta like proofread this stuff. Yeah, that's really sad because you can imagine whoever did this, the prompts are write me something that proves these various things. And I think if any of us who have messed around any amount with any of these models, they're there to try to please you and give you what you ask for, and we'll make shit up all the time. We'll make shit up all the time. We did some trip planning with it, and they're trying to have me go places on trains that don't have train stations, like minor thing, fun. Right? You figure it out before you go, hopefully. But something like this, right? They're trying to use it to prove what they've been trying to prove, which isn't provable because the data just isn't there. This is going away from the weird and into the dangerous.
Into the dangerous. Robot generated obsequiousness towards anti-vaccine positions is at HHS. On its way to dangerous for sure.
Yeah, and the robot thing makes me think of Elon telling us not to go to med school because robots are going to be doing all of it. And you know what? If the robot is doing your surgery and it would rather you weren't hemorrhaging, it might just overlook that hemorrhage and sew you right back up and tell your family everything's all good. Like, oof, scary stuff. Makes me a little more comfortable that they're not going to take over the world anytime soon.
Yeah. That sounds right. That it's not getting this. That it's not getting the Maha report. And the fact that they like putting out reports like this, I guess one of the things that I struggle with is they keep doing it, right? They keep, they use it seemed like they use ChatGPT for the tariffs, but on the health stuff in particular, because this, the tariffs are one thing, and economics is an imperfect science, but science isn't an imperfect science. or even when it is imperfect, like, I mean, this was like knowably false. And it just seems like they didn't even proofread it before they sent it out the door. And so once again, coming out of Bobby Kennedy's shop is we get something that is propaganda for coalition management as opposed to medicine or healthcare. So, all right, number 7, issued the 2025 to 2030 U.S. dietary guidelines for Americans that literally turns the previous food pyramid upside down. The new guidelines reverse decades-old nutritional guidance favoring saturated fats, protein, meat, cheese, and whole milk. The effort was part of what he called an end to the war on saturated fats. This is also determinative of some school policies in which we're beginning to, so like derived from this is you start to see policy being set where they're saying they're going to drive saturated fats back into public schools. So another sort of strange pulling in of children into the madness coming out of HHS. Rob, what do you think about the inversion of the food pyramid and the reintroduction of saturated fats as a good?
Yeah, who like somebody is benefiting from this, right?
Totally.
Big ag, big, beep, somebody, right? There's folks in, like, it has to be. Or is it just like he wants to gnaw on a raw steak without a shirt, wearing blue jeans, and say, this is healthy for me, back to raw food.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
Why
that's
not?
the next
Why
video.
not both, Rob? I think there could be an ultra masculine like aesthetic power play, and there could be and there could be someone making a little bit of money over
and Dr. Oz saying, drink some booze. You'd be more social. People hang out, like,
Sure.
hey, again, I'm not a prude. You want to eat steak, eat steak. You want to drink a little booze, drink a little booze. But like, let's not set U.S. food policy based on what people, just what people want, like you can tell people, hard truths about what is actually best for them. And then people can decide what they want. They can do it. They can do what they want. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, now as we start to veer into number 6, we're going to start getting into the serious ones.
Yeah.
So at number 6, we've delayed, deleted, or stopped reporting numerous sources of public health information. This is via MedPage Today. A year ago, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said he wanted to rebuild trust in federal health agencies and vowed to employ radical transparency to do it. But many types of health information that steadily flowed from the government for years or decades have been delayed, deleted, or in some cases stopped altogether. This is not just Robert Kennedy's doing. This is across the board. We've seen the ending of climate information publishing. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has had a rocky road in getting timely information about the American economy, and sort of the U.S. government, which prior to Trump was the number one aggregator of information in the world, and then publishing that information in incredibly transparent and reliable ways, on all these different issue sets, from health to climate to economics. We've seen those numbers get shut off essentially, or tinkered with, or delayed. And so I would say for the purposes of us, as healthcare advocates, the public health information is particularly scary. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think people, local health departments, right, states base decisions on the data that they get from the federal government, right, because they have the ability to gather that data and to put it out, or had been doing that for as long as I've been doing any of this work. And so the fact that they're gonna they have curtailed that, or that they're putting out less information, like, again, the more we know, the better. Even if it's again, going back to COVID, even if it's like we don't know everything, but here's what we know, and here's what we think based on what we know, like that's really helpful. That's really helpful in the real world. It's really helpful in the public health world, but in the world of like patient care, bedside patient care. And so to remove that, you're putting people at risk. And I mean, there's been backfill, right? Like the Western Health Alliance out on the West Coast, and I know different groups like the AAP has done their kind of vaccine recommendations, and so like a lot of different groups have tried to fill in the gaps where the federal government has kind of let us down that way. But it's just a lot for them all to do, right? And to do it across the board for 300 and some odd million people in this country, it's just not happening.
Well, I always go to a place of like the ending of reliable public health information, just like the ending of reliable economic information, just like the ending of reliable climate science information, should be thought of as a core pillar of the authoritarian project. And it's like one of the first things that goes when other countries don't like, whether they be communist Soviet Union ending of like publishing information that makes them look bad, or right-wing governments that stop publishing information that makes them look bad. You basically like end reliable information across the board, because the communications from the government is all part of the political project, as opposed to this, huge swath of the government that prior to Donald Trump showing up and Robert Kennedy showing up, had these big nonpartisan functions that were really important for the rest of us who live out in the world, or people who do science, or people who study climate, or people who do medicine. And it's like a huge loss that I think you don't feel on day one, but pretty quickly starts having a deleterious effect on the country as a whole.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you remember, kind of a precursor to this back in Trump version 1.0 was if you stop the testing, we won't have the cases, right?
That's right.
They want to look bad by having more cases. We
Right.
just won't test people. That's
Which,
not
you know,
fair.
how quaint was
How'd
that?
that work
Now
out?
that,
Yeah,
now that
Jesus Christ.
HHS has just shut off public health information that sort of writ large.
Man,
Yeah.
man.
All right.
All right.
All right. Let's go on to number 5. He has vowed to eliminate conflicts of interest with big business within HHS. And he has not even come close. In fact, the conflicts are beginning to pile up.
Yeah.
For example, several of the members of Kennedy's advisory panel on nutrition had ties to the meat and dairy industry.
Oh, wow, look at that.
Bingo, we got it. He
Ugh.
also claimed ACIP, the CDC's vaccine advisory committee, had many members with conflicts of interest, and Kennedy vowed that he would correct that. It turns out that a number of the current ACIP members with conflicts of interest was at prior to his change up, it was at a historic low when he took office. It now still has members that he appointed with conflicts.
Yeah.
And yet another example of Trump's choice for Surgeon General, health influencer and grifter Casey Means. She's close to RFK Jr., associate and advisor, and has not just advocated for alternative health treatments, but often lacks scientific support, but profits off them. And then it seems like almost everyone involved in the Maha grift has some weird financial association with wearables.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're all dipping into that well, right? Of people
Sure.
seeking alternative kind of modes to be healthy. And so you go on the internet, you can go on, you just search, right? You search wellness. And like, it's unbelievable if you just wanted to spend a little cash, how much you could be, how much money could be separated from you on this. And that's who they're filling it up with. I mean, Casey
Yeah.
Means, we haven't heard that in a while. And I think her hearing is coming up. And yeah, just another member of the grift. Yeah. It's, obviously we knew this going in, and then now we have the evidence, a year later.
On to number 4. He's linked what he says is an autism epidemic to vaccines and the use of acetaminophen by pregnant mothers and circumcision. In an HHS press release, the agency highlighted actions that they were taking to protect people from the most commonly used pain reliever in the world. Today, the FDA will issue a physician notice and begin the process to initiate a safety label change for acetaminophen, Tylenol, and similar products. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health from Tylenol. So HHS recommended the use of Leucovorin. Do you know what this is, Rob?
Leucovorin, yeah.
Leucovorin,
Yep.
as a treatment for autism. And Kennedy himself directed CDC to remove the claim that vaccines do not cause autism from the website. So the quack solves for autism have become official government communications, and we think that's number 4. Easy.
Yeah. I mean, this goes just like to the heart of it, right? So many folks, part of the wellness Maha movement, are, kind of so-called Maha moms, with kids with anywhere on the spectrum, and it can be a debilitating disease and just devastating for families. And so I understand, like, people looking for answers, like, why did this happen? How did this happen? How did we prevent it?
Yeah.
And he and that whole crowd are offering them, reasons that are not supported by science. And then they're just bringing that, like you said, to officialdom. And it's sad because you're giving these folks false hope. Like, well, if we can just eliminate these things, right? If we can just alter policy on these basic things, well, then we can, finally end the scourge of this disease. And it's false hope, right? You're giving people false hope, and you're in the case of acetaminophen or circumcisions, you're now having folks who used acetaminophen when they were pregnant, or who circumcised their kid and then they ended up being on the spectrum, like feeling guilt, right? that they somehow caused this. It's really despicable. And it's like, it's not directing any attention to actually trying to figure this out, right? They've stripped $1.4 billion from primary research through the NIH and other granting in this government, and if they wanted to actually spend money trying to research this, there's any number of folks out there, I'm sure, are happy to go ahead and let's pursue that research and let's figure out, let's unlock all the myriad reasons on how autism, comes to pass. Yeah, I mean, this is a bad one. It could have been number one, could have been number whatever, but yeah,
Probably
it's
could have
definitely
been
deserving
number-
of the top five.
yeah,
Deserving of the top five.
Deserve the top five. All right, I'm going to move on to number 3. This one's sad. Dismantling America's public health infrastructure. So since he took office, RFK has overseen the departure of roughly 20% of the staff across HHS, the collection of 13 government public health agencies that are tasked with keeping Americans safe and free from disease of all kinds. They include the CDC, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and the National Institutes of Health, NIH. It wasn't just rank and file HHS employees who got the axe. For example, Kennedy drove out top leadership out of the CDC, major step towards making the country less safe and prepared. He first fired CDC Director Susan Menarez, which resulted in several other top leaders leaving, including Dr. Deb Bowery, Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis, Dr. Daniel Jernigan, Jennifer Layden, who oversaw data and surveillance efforts. And so you have this just sort of mass flight of people with these deep skill sets, these extraordinary backgrounds who keep the country safe from pandemics and epidemics and all sorts of infectious disease. And then also just a reminder, like, America's pretty important for like worldwide disease control as well. Like, it's like the CDC kept us safe, but like diseases and epidemics and pandemics don't know any borders by definition. And you had sort of this, you had the people at the very top of their field. You saw and you're seeing mass exodus. Not everybody, like we've said before, like it's important to remember, like there are a lot of good people who are figuring out how to still do good work. Yeah. But it's bad and it's hard and it makes they are not able to do the best thing that they could otherwise do if these places were functioning at a high level instead of essentially decapitated by Robert Kennedy Jr. So we're putting this one at number 3.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, kind of no notes on your description of the impact of that. It's CDC one's seen as a shining star around the world, like you said, of gathering and disseminating health information, not only to keep our people in this country healthy, but around the world. And sort of abandoning that is pretty despicable. Like among all of the transgressions of the Trump administration, of which there are many, I don't know how this can't be seen as one of the worst. Right? Yeah. Overall,
This one has the potential to have the highest body count of anything that the Trump administration does. Like on a long enough timeline, whether it's diseases uncured or whether it's the not being able to control epidemics or pandemics, whether it's public education going by the around diseases going by the wayside. It's just the list goes like on and on and on. Is that this one? This one's in the running for number 1 because the body count could be really high, depending on sort of what ends up happening in the future. It's too bad. I heard someone say the other day that if you put a serial killer in charge of HHS, they would probably have pursued a really similar agenda as this one. And I thought, that sounds right. Like it would be like hard to figure out what they would do different.
I mean, most serial killers probably target specific populations, so you may be able to confine it, right? Right. It's kind of gross, but Jesus.
Yeah. All right. That's gross number stuff. 3. Number 2, we are the re-review of mifepristone by the FDA. So the abortion pill mifepristone has been approved by the FDA since 2000, and over 2 decades of use has proven it to be as safe and it is now the most common form of abortion. It is the way people access reproductive rights and reproductive freedom in this country overwhelmingly. However, anti-abortion zealots keen to enact a nationwide abortion ban are determined to stop its use. They convinced Kennedy's FDA to conduct yet another review of the drug, which has been found safe in over 100 scientific studies. The basis for the review is a junk science paper from a Washington, D.C. based right-wing think tank that describes itself as focused on pushing back against the extreme progressive agenda. Rather than science, the paper relied on data from an insurance database. But it was just a piece of propaganda. They've initiated this review, and people who are watching it suspect that this is an end run around legislation in order to try to ban abortion nationwide. And it is Bobby Kennedy doing the shovel work of the right of the MAGA movement in order to sort of protect the politics of Congress and Trump, while also achieving the policy agenda to control people's reproductive choices and control women in the country. So we're putting this at number 2. This one sucks.
This one sucks. I mean, like here in my state of Michigan, I do work up in the Upper Peninsula sometimes, right? The only abortion clinic, Planned Parenthood up there in Marquette, Michigan, closed in April of last year. And so the only way, in Michigan in 2022, the voters overwhelmingly decided to make abortion rights, to put that in the Constitution of the state.
Right. Including way up there, which is not a liberal place. This is,
No.
in the Upper Peninsula, but that place voted for reproductive rights. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember a sage OBGYN I work with in a very conservative area who said, yeah, once you shut the door of the clinic room, like all that politics, that goes out the door, right? You're just having basic medical decisions with people in front of you trying to figure out their future. And so the only way women who live in the UP can get abortion care is to drive to Green Bay, Wisconsin, or drive below the bridge. Other than telehealth and getting mifepristone. Actually, I think a doctor who worked at that clinic is running for state house in Marquette, so that's keep an eye at it. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
This is, and it's just such bullshit, right? Because it is undeniably safe, effective drug, safer. I mean, we've heard all the things, safer than Viagra, safer than aspirin. And yet they're trying to kind of pull up all this, non-studies to try to prove something. And, I guess we'll see. I mean, like we said before, I guess this is something we absolutely need to stay on top of because they're doing it kind of in the dark a bit, or trying to.
Yeah, because it has the fact that they're using this specific process to pursue their anti-abortion objectives has the anti-abortion objectives problems, which would, those are bad. And then it has the secondary, like, downstream effect of, like, once you politicize or weaponize these processes, how do you put that, how do you, like, put that back in the jar? How do you seal that top again? That seems like a really challenging process. Once you say we're going to use these apolitical processes, which I'm sure had their own problems and warts, but, like, we're largely insulated from like politics, that once you politicize them, what's stopping people from using them in the future on all manner of different things? So you get sort of you get a twofer with this one, which makes it so bad. So,
and Big Pharma has 1,800 lobbyists in Washington, D.C. Like, maybe some of those could be directed a portion toward defending this extremely safe drug.
This one, that's right.
Can we do that? Like, we're no friends of Big Pharma here. But come on.
But use some paltry amount of your 1,800 lobbyists towards going and halting this, please. Do something. Give something back.
Right.
Okay.
We'll give you credit.
So
we'll give you credit
back. Yeah,
we will give you credit.
Yeah, that's right. All right, and the number one. Here he goes. Drum roll. The number one worst thing RFK has done this year: undermining the critical importance of life-saving vaccines, converting the bully pulpit of the federal government in the service of his anti-vaccine agenda. Kennedy called the COVID-19 vaccine the deadliest vaccine ever made, and he has stacked the top vaccine panel, the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, with vaccine skeptics and anti-vaccine activists. Kennedy's actions have led to a resurgence of measles and has empowered anti-vax zealots to do further damage. This continues the work he did as the founder of the anti-vax group Children's Health Defense. In addition, the CDC eventually announced a revamped childhood vaccine schedule that has decreased the number of vaccines recommended for children, nixing shots for flu, rotavirus, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, some forms of meningitis, and RSV. A recent poll confirms that confidence in vaccines has dropped across the country. And we think this is the worst one. At least I've humbly submitted. This is a disaster for the country, is a disaster for the world.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's overlap with this, with dismantling, but their specific targeting of vaccines has been particularly egregious and dangerous, right? I mean, we see right now the measles outbreaks around this country. Right now, I think hottest in South Carolina, last year in Texas and around the South. Yeah, I don't know where this one goes, man. Like, this again is one of those things. If you're looking at body counts, I mean, this is going to reveal itself over the next generation or so. And even if we can turn this ship around eventually, it's going to be another generation before we see the positive impact of turning that around.
That's right.
Pretty dark stuff.
Pretty dark stuff. It seems like where it's a generation or 2 generations problem. Like, some of us might not. A lot of us are probably not going to live to see the end of the consequences. For what is the result of dropping confidence in vaccines, and then and then what follows is then uptake in vaccines drops, and it's gonna take a really long time to rebuild that, and to what end? This guy, he's 72. He's not He's not going to win the presidency. I mean, like, how many? So for his political ambitions, like, just the volume of like pain and suffering and death, disease, disability that he is willing to like unleash on the world in order to pursue the ambitions, man.
Yeah, but the more you listen to him, he's a believer.
You think he's a believer?
A believer. I think. A good friend said they took their dad to like a group home, assisted living, and he was like a pretty left, liberal type guy going in, and after 3 months of watching Fox News nonstop, he became programmed into that thinking and would just rail about all the shit that's going on over there. And so I just think he's been swimming in the soup of all this for so long. He does. He sounds like a believer. Like, it doesn't sound like he has to draw much to kind of try to sell the anti-vax message.
Totally. This might be where you and I disagree on Robert Kennedy Jr., Rob, because I think he's a guy who's a stone cold narcissist. He has an extraordinary will to power. But I think if his will to power, if his path to power and his path to self-importance and like being able to look at himself on television was vaccine uptake being at 100%, he'd figure out a way to work on that. I just think, and he'd figure out how to talk himself into it, right? Like, maybe eventually he comes around to believing it, but it's the justification is self-promotion first and the will to power, and then he gets there somehow on even the craziest of things. The third option that neither of us are arguing for is the man is just, what one of his friends said was that he's bursting with madness, is that he just might be an absolute madman. And so we're getting random numbers being generated that has resulted in this American tragedy. Who knows? Outcomes are bad either way.
Yeah, outcomes are bad either way.
So anyway. All right, well, that's our top 10 list, everybody. If you have a different 10 list, throw it in the comments or reach out to us. We're going to continue to cover Robert Kennedy, or as we like to call him here, Biohazard Bobby. And hopefully the next year he'll be able to do a lot less damage now that the political it seems like the political space that Mega and Maha occupy are slowly closing a little bit, that maybe they'll be able to do a little less damage in the year to come. So, and to that end, Rob, to offer a little bit of hope after maybe a palate cleanser after that bleak top 10 list, a glimmer of hope that the Maha coalition is splintering and is at Trump or at odds with the Trump administration, sort of dislodging Maha from power, hopefully. Trump on Wednesday night signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act to compel the domestic production of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides. Glyphosate is the chemical in Bayer Monsanto's Roundup and is most commonly used weed killer for a slew of U.S. crops. Trump in the order said shortages of both phosphorus and glyphosate would pose a risk to national security. Kennedy backed the president in a statement to CNBC Thursday morning. But if you remember way back, Roundup and like the problems with Monsanto, that's like the early seedlings of the Maha movement. And you see the coalition support for a move like this is going to be very little.
That's in their founding documents, like the golden tablets found buried in Joseph Smith's backyard included Monsanto and Roundup. And
right. So the hope is that obviously, in other respects, they do seem like they are pretty paired. And you see Tony Fabrizio, the pollster, the pollster for Trump saying that they got to buy the Maha movement. They can't just keep renting the Maha movement.
Yeah.
But this is a complicated coalition to keep together, and it seems like there are some cracks. So there are some hopes that there could be a big divorce someday.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
whatever causes it. Yeah, that could be best possible outcome. Because I think as soon as that splinters and truly cracks, I think this guy's out. Right. I think he is too much headache for this administration to tolerate if he's not bringing political value.
That's exactly right. All right, Rob. Well, why don't we wrap it up? Today's episode was written by Chris Savage, Dr. Rob Davidson, and me, Miles Baker. It was produced by Amelia Dillon Schneider, Joel Bryson, and Chris Savage. It was edited by Darian Badigan. Our music is by Annette Somerset at Duneflower Productions. And if you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe and leave us a rating on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Your support helps others discover the podcast. You can also follow Paging America on Substack. And if you would like to become a paying subscriber, we would appreciate it very much. Your subscription helps us do what we do here. Physicians, your voice matters. Join the fight for better American healthcare by becoming a member of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. Visit www.committeetoprotect.org to learn more. And Dr. Rob, next week we will be back with a normal show. Instead, we won't be doing a top 10 list, but I had fun today. Thanks for having the conversation.
Same here. See you in a week.
All right. See you in a week.